In this video, I'm going to show you how you can derive the quadratic formula from completing the square. So I have two things side by side that I'm going to show you that if you know how to do this with numbers, like on the left-hand side, we can do that with variables with our coefficients a, b, and c and get to the quadratic formula. There's definitely a little bit more algebra in the green one, in the one on the right where we're deriving it, but I'm trying to use side by side so we can see that we're going to follow the same exact steps we would in class to solve with completing a square. So if we were doing the one in white here, this 2x squared plus 4x plus 10 equals 0, if I wanted to solve that with completing a square, I would have to have that 2 be a 1. So I have to divide everything by 2 to start out with. So that's every term. So I would have an x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. So let's work side by side here. So on the one on the right in the green, that would be, so I would have to divide everything here by a, okay, which would leave me, it's not going to be as pretty as the one in white, but it would leave me with x squared plus b over a, x, plus c over a. All right, so we're going to leave everything just in terms of variables on the one on the right. All right, so back to the one on the left here. So the one on the left, to complete the square, remember we're trying to figure out, our goal is to be able to write it as this. That's our goal with completing the square, as a quantity squared. So the 5 here is not going to work with the 2. So that's when we move it over to the other side. And that's when we put our blank in. And whatever we add to one side, we have to add to the other. Okay, so let's do that same thing to this one. All right, so I'm going to move over my constant, and I'm going to put in my plus blank. And I move over my constant, that's an a here. And I'm going to figure out what I have to add to both sides. Because still, the goal in the right-hand side is still to get that left side to be written as a quantity squared. The same goal that we had all along. All right, so what do we do over here on the left here? So how do we figure out that missing blank, right? Well, we take half the middle term. So we take 2, we cut it in half, right? And then we square it. So this is kind of one that the numbers work out to be similar. So meaning 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared stays 1. Okay. So we have a 1 on both sides. So then, I kind of wish I picked a different number here, but when I go to my next step in the one on the white, this number right here, when I write this as a quantity squared, it would be x plus, and it would come from here. So whatever that is going to be the same number as there. This one's just a coincidence where this number right here and this number are the same, just because when you take half of 2 and you get 1 and you square 1, it stays 1. Okay, so that's where we are on that side. So that one now is we're done completing the square on the white one. Now we could start solving by taking the square root. So let's see if we can get to that same spot on the one on the right. Okay, so this is where the algebra kind of comes in here. So now we have to do the same thing with variables. So I have to take the middle term and I have to cut it in half. I think it will be easier in this one to actually show it to you like that. If I cut it in half, I'm timesing it by a half, which would get me a b over 2a. So that b over 2a is what's going to end up being here. Right? When I cut the number in half before I square it, that's what goes into my factored form. I still do have to square it. Okay, and then whatever that is I'm going to put up in that blank. So when I square that, I get a b squared on top, and I get a 4a squared on the bottom. I'm squaring each piece of this. I'm squaring the b, I'm squaring that 2, and I'm squaring that a. So whatever goes on one side goes on the other. Okay, that's my blank. So now we have this in factored form. Okay, so now I really have to just work on this. Okay, I'm going to work on it. How do I simplify that? All right, so let me just change the color of my pen so you can see what I'm doing here. So these I need a common denominator. So one denominator is a and one is 4a squared. So my common denominator is going to be a 4a squared. So the one on the right already has a 4a squared, so I don't have to do anything to that. The one on the left, the negative c over a, well, I'm going to multiply both of them by 4a to get that to be a common denominator. Okay, so what do we have here? So this new fraction is going to be a negative 4ac over 4a squared plus b squared. Hopefully you're getting excited because you start to see the quadratic formula coming out. So the only thing I'm going to do, so when I have a common denominator of 4a squared, I'm going to write it as one big fraction. And rather than having minus 4ac plus b squared, let's do it this way. Right? So it's definitely coming along here. All right, so let me just move this up a little bit. Oops. Okay. So I can keep going with this one. So if I worked on the white one, what would be my next step? Well, it would be to start solving, right? So I would put a plus or minus in front of my square root, and I would say, well, x plus 1 equals plus or minus. Well, this case, I can simplify the radical a bit more because it's just a number there. So that would give me a 2i, plus or minus 2i. And then what would I do next? I'd bring over that 1, right? So that one is completely solved using completing the square. So let's do the same steps. So we said, if we're solving now, we're going to take the square root of both sides, plus minus. So what's it going to look like now? Okay, well, this is what I've got so far. That square and square root will undo each other. Plus or minus. All right, so when I do this, I'm going to take the square root of the top and square root of the bottom. So when I do the bottom part, when I take the square root of 4a squared, well, that becomes a 2a because I took the square root of 4 and took the square root of a squared. And the top, there's not really a whole lot I can do with. All right, if you're not getting so pumped right now, I don't know. I can't help you because this is getting to be good. We start to see the quadratic formula coming out of here. All I have to do is solve for a, get this, bring that negative b over 2a over, or sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. It's positive b over 2a, so I'm going to subtract it over. I'm going to put it right in the front. Okay, let me just move this up a little bit so I have a little more room. And then if each one of these fractions are over 2a, I can write it as all over 2a. Ta-da! That's my quadratic formula. All we did was complete the square. We did the same process on both sides of this, the white equation and then the green one. The steps were identical. We just had working through with the variables and instead of the numbers just means I had more algebra involved. But that is where the quadratic formula comes from. So hopefully that helps you a little bit and gives you a little perspective on where we get that from and why we can use it.